For us, early retirement has not meant doing nothing, but getting to do what we choose, whether it's writing or travel or creating in any form. It's financial independence by another name, and we highly recommend it. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to start enjoying your life. You can do that much earlier and start living a life that you love and that's true to you. Welcome to Freedom Before FIRE. Using FIRE and life design techniques, we help you create freedom on your way to FIRE instead of waiting until you're retired to do the things that light you up. I'm your host Greg, a FIRE movement and life design enthusiast. If you're itching to get freedom now, then let's do this. Good day to you, my friend, and welcome back to another episode. So I apologize in advance, it's raining over here right now, so you might hear like the raindrops in the background, but hopefully it won't distract you too much. So anyway, today marks an interesting week for us. In case you didn't know, my wife and I both embarked on a 12-month sabbatical last year. And actually, we overshot our plan by 1 or 2 months. So for the missus, her sabbatical has been around 13 months so far. And for me, it's been around 14 months. That's because I started a month before she did. As you might know, we mainly done it to spend time with my parents who are getting on a bit and they're retired, spend time with our families, and to spend quality time together as newlyweds to travel and explore. Anyway, my wife will be going back to work this week, which would mark the end of her little mini retirement. The cool thing is, she's actually found some part-time work. So she'll be transitioning from a mini retirement to a mini semi-retirement stint. So she'll still have some spare time to do the things that she loves. Anyway, that was just a quick life update. I thought I'd share that. On to our next FI book for this week. So this week, we'll be diving into the book, How to Retire Early, Your Guide to Getting Rich Slowly and Retiring on Less, written by Robert and Robin Charlton. Now this one's a bit of a hidden gem and probably not as popular as the previous ones I mentioned, but it's still really good. The authors Robert and Robin both retired at the age of 43 back in 2006. Their main goal was to travel the world and embark on creative writing projects. Here's something that they wrote on their blog which I liked. For us, early retirement has not meant doing nothing, but getting to do what we choose, whether it's writing or travel, or creating in any form. It's financial independence by another name, and we highly recommend it. What I loved about their story is that it's quite relatable, well for me anyway. So for example, they were also late bloomers to the whole FI scene and only started properly investing in the early 30s. They had fairly normal jobs, in air quotes, and were bringing in average household incomes, but more so in their first half of their investing years. So through consistency, hard work, and time, they were able to break free after 15 years. So anyway, let's jump into the 3 big lessons that I learned from this book. So one of the key lessons I learned in this book was how important it is to also invest in your own development, be it your knowledge, your career, your skills, and so on. So this has 2 benefits. The first one is you're increasing your skill set or your know-how. The second one is you can potentially attract more income as you'll have more skills to offer, or potentially more specialist skills. So that's exactly what happened to Robert's wife Robin. So in the first half of their 15-year investing journey, Robin was earning roughly around 15 to 20k per year as a travel agent. Mind you, this was in the 90s when physical travel agents were a thing. As the market was turning more to online agents, her role became obsolete, so she had to reinvent herself. So since they were on their FIRE journey, she found a practical new career as a nurse. It had a shorter learning curve, which is 1.5 years of training, and had potential for a decent salary. So although they were in the middle of their investing journey, they had to fork out around 20k for the nursing program. Plus the 1.5 years of her salary gone during the training, so it was a double blow, but they knew it'd pay off in the long run, and it did. So Robin went from earning around 20k to around 40k a year in just 6 months after finishing the course. Her salary then went up to around 50k in the second half of their journey. So they were able to recover the cost of the training, but more importantly, able to save and invest more for their future and getting to FI quicker. Although they had to take a few little steps backwards, with the power of investing in themselves, they were able to take much bigger strides going forward. Now, although not as drastic, my wife and I also took some slight career shifts. We both shifted into leadership roles, which has definitely helped us in our journey so far, and we're still on that journey. And by the way, you don't need to make a massive change or do a degree to invest in yourself. It can even mean something like applying yourself more at work. It can be being coached on a skill, learning a new strategy, basically whatever gives you new knowledge or skills that can benefit your life. Okay, let's move on to big lesson number 2, which is you don't need a 6-figure salary to break free. Okay, so here's an extract from the book that I highlighted. And it goes, you don't need to become a doctor or a lawyer or earn an outrageously high salary to retire early, but you do need to have a decent job paying a decent wage, say in the 50 to 60k range if you're living somewhere reasonably affordable. If you're earning 30k or less and have little hope of making more, you should consider a career change because otherwise you're making it harder on yourself than it has to be. End of quote. So just a quick caveat, those figures were based in US, and the book was written in 2013 and updated in 2018, so you might need to increase those numbers a tad for inflation. Anyway, when I read the book during my early FI research phase, it gave me a bit of hope, because I was of the belief that you had to have a big 6-figure salary to be on the FI journey. That's because most of the early FIRE bloggers were like software engineers or physicians earning big bucks. But for the authors, over their 15-year investing journey, from 1991 to 2006, they had an average combined household income of $89,000. Of course, that was for a couple, but for a single person, they could do something similar with less income. Anyway, the moral of the story is that you don't need a 6-figure salary, and it would be difficult if you were on the other end of the spectrum earning minimum wage. So combining the previous big lesson with this one, invest in yourself first and strive for a decent wage if early retirement is in your long-term plans. Alright, on to the last lesson. Alright, so big lesson number 3 is knowing when you're in enemy territory, but I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so this one's more of a day-to-day reminder, but for me it was very memorable and helpful. Okay, so I'll explain this lesson by reading another extract from the book that I highlighted, and it goes, whenever you walk into a store or shop online, it helps to remember you're on the wrong side of the make-spend equation. You're in enemy territory, so to speak. Of course, we all need to shop, but there's a difference between shopping out of necessity and shopping for pleasure. End of quote. Now that line about being in enemy territory made me chuckle when I first read it. Being on the fire path, we become more mindful of our expenses, we spend more on things we value and less on random material stuff. So this quote was a really good reminder for me, and hopefully it helps you too. So whenever you go to the mall or you're checking the Amazon website, just be mindful that you too are in enemy territory. Okay, let's do a quick recap. So big lesson number 1 was the power of investing in yourself. Big lesson number 2 is you don't need a 6-figure salary to break free. Big lesson number 3 is knowing when you're in enemy territory. Alright, so there you have it. Those are the 3 big lessons that I learned from the book, How to Retire Early. It's a little gem of a book, and it's funny because if you looked at my Kindle app, you'd see that I've pretty much highlighted the whole book. I've even emailed the authors just to let them know how awesome their book is, and I actually got a response. Anyway, the author Robert, living their retired life, has now written a 3-part science fiction novel. How cool is that? They're using their freedom to do the things that they love to do. And that's what this podcast is all about. If you think this episode would help a friend, please don't hesitate to share it with them. The show notes can be found at freedombeforefire.substack.com. If you have a question or want to connect, feel free to send me an email at freedombeforefire@proton.me. That's freedombeforefire@proton.me. If you found this show useful and want to be notified of future episodes, you can follow us on Spotify or Apple via the show's main page or on whatever app you're using right now. And lastly, if you've just learned one good thing that will help you in your journey and you want to help us out here, please do leave a 5-star rating on your podcast player app. If you're using Apple Podcasts, you can even leave a nice review by scrolling to the bottom of the podcast page. That would help us out loads. So that's what I have for you today. Stay tuned next week where we'll be diving into our last FI book. I'll catch you then. And as always, practice gratitude, live life by your design, and do things that make you smile. You got this.